365. Hey, take a moment here. Put your phone's ringer on silent. Maybe pick up a nice cold barley forage beer and have one right along with me. Makes everything better. It's time now for some NFL draft talk, and we're here tonight with senior NFL draft correspondent Connor Livesay. Connor, good day, sir.
How you guys doing this afternoon?
Oh man, we're doing really well here. It's a pretty exciting time. We finally get to dive in after some technical difficulties yesterday with a full recap of the guys that we want to introduce out of your top 100 list. We're not going to give you all of them, just a handful, 5 I believe. And we're going to jump right in with number 98 on your list. He's the wide receiver out of Fresno, Keyshawn Johnson. Keesean, I believe. And yeah, that's what I got to ask you. You know, is he related at all to Keyshawn Johnson, NFL Hall of Fame player?
No relation. You know, same name, same pronunciation, just spelled a little bit different. But a guy who looks a little bit similar on the football field. He's listed at 6'2", 200 pounds, a big guy, long frame, physical receiver that's able to stretch the field. Doesn't have elite speed. He's not a long speed burner that you would expect with the amount of plays he makes in the deeper third of the field. But a guy that can stretch defenses. He comes off the line of scrimmage very well. He's a kind of sneaky good route runner, I like to describe. And as you'll see here on the clip we're running, he's just a simple 9 route that he's just able to use a little bit of his upper body strength at the top of the route there to push off just a little bit. That subtle push off doesn't draw a flag in the NFL, but it does create enough separation to bring in a deep ball. But the things I like, man, are just the spatial awareness there and the body control to be able to bring that ball in while not being in perfect position to bring that ball in. I think that's important because not every ball is thrown perfect. You have to adjust a lot. And he does that well. His body control and, as I mentioned, his spatial awareness to get his feet in bounds, get 2 feet in bounds actually on that last play. It's nice to see.
Oh yeah, the way that he waited to the right moment to make his little push, you know, and put him in position.
Mm-hmm. He does it again there.
Oh yeah, so explain this route to us. What do we got going on?
It's just a simple, comeback route. It's a 10-yard comeback, but again, at the top of the route, he's so physical. He plays with so much power in his upper body that it's just a simple little push off. It doesn't extend all the way out. That arm doesn't flex all the way out. He's just got enough power in his upper body to give that subtle shove that pushes the DB off enough to where it's able to gain separation. He's able to work back to the football, catch the ball in the triangle, and then get upfield and pick up some yards after the catch.
You sure he's in Fresno, man? Because I'm seeing a lot of Michael Irvin. I mean, this could be a Miami guy. I mean, because the push-offs are excellent. He waits to the right time. They're done at an angle where the referee's not really getting a great view, and they're not exaggerated. They're part of his natural movement.
Yeah, he's very quiet and subtle in the way he runs his routes and the way he catches the football. He's not a guy that just really, does anything with super explosion. He's not a super good athlete, but he was super productive. In 2016, 2017, he caught 66 balls, 77 balls, and 95 balls in those 3 years. And then he had 773 yards in 2016, 1,013 yards in 2017, and then 1,340 yards in 2018. And then he went 6, 8, and 8 in touchdowns those years. So he's a guy that puts up numbers. While not being an elite athlete, he is making elite plays all over the field with his physicality at the catch point, his reliable hands. He catches everything. So he's just a guy who's got super reliable hands. He's a sneaky good route runner. He creates plays down the field, and that's what NFL teams are going to love in him.
Oh, man, and like you say, a route runner. He's got more than one. This is pretty obvious by the way he runs. But let's jump a little bit further up your list, okay? We're getting up pretty far from number 98 to number 53. And we're going to go to the edge rusher position now. Number 47 on the Alabama team, Christian Miller. What can you tell me about this guy, and why is he going to be rated that high?
Well, see, and Christian Miller's a guy who's actually probably going to end up a lot higher on my board than what he is now. So he's rated at, what did we say, 53 now? I would expect him to get in that 40 range by the end of it. He's such a flexible player for his size. He's a guy that plays a lot smaller than I think he's 6'4", 255, but he kind of looks like a linebacker when he rushes. He's got great bendability and flexation in his lower half. He's able to bend the edge. We have a clip here that I wanted to show, if we could throw that up on the screen real quick, to kind of just describe what he does so well. And you'll see here him working up the field. He bends, He wins the edge, and when he wins that edge, he flattens out his route to the quarterback. He doesn't rush upfield. We see here that about the 41-yard line, he's going to win the edge, and he flattens that route out to the quarterback at the 40-yard line. So it only takes him a yard to flatten his path to the quarterback and create that short distance, because if he isn't able to bend and flatten out, he's going to rush up and past the quarterback, and that's not going to be a sack. But that's something we see with a lot of guys nowadays is they're able to bend, but they're not able to flatten that route out and explode out of that bend, out of that ankle bend, and then flatten out that route to the quarterback. So that's something I love from him.
Well, not only does it shorten the route to the quarterback, it helps him get by the guy that's trying to block him, because now he's underneath and by him. And that guy, the only thing he can do at that point is turn around and tackle him.
Yep, or block him in the back, and a flag's normally thrown. So, yeah, just being able to dip under there and get the sack is huge. And again, he's a guy that didn't really get onto the scene at Alabama until this year. He had 8 sacks in 2018, 11 tackles for loss, 34 tackles, but he was playing behind the guys like Tim Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson throughout the year. So it took him a while to get in and get work. And as soon as he was able to get some, heavy snaps on that rotation, he was able to make a difference on that Alabama defensive line.
Oh man, it's exciting to see a guy like that, and if he makes it up into those low 40s, that's a quite a big paycheck jump, for a rookie in the NFL, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, his just his physical makeup, the combine's going to be big for him because you see the bend, so he should have a really good 3-cone drill. But obviously, a lot of people like seeing those fast 40s. I don't think he's going to run a super quick 40, but I think he's going to be good in the short area drills, the 3-cone, and then he's going to do great in the bag drills and stuff like that because he is a very powerful, violent athlete.
Oh yeah, and everybody does like the 40, especially the fans. But ultimately, for the NFL scouts, etc., that 3-cone and a couple of those other drills are just as important, aren't they?
Of course, that 3-cone is probably the most important drill for the edge rushers because it shows how flexible as athletes they are, how quick they can change directions, and that's the most important thing for these defensive linemen and edge rushers coming into the league with as quick and explosive as these running backs and quarterbacks are nowadays. You have to be able to change directions. You have to be able to change pace and go. And if you can do that at a high level, you're finding success in the NFL.
Well, that's exciting because the next player that we're going to talk about, just to jump up the list, and it's quite a nice jump from number 53 on your list to number 38. And we're talking about a guy from Oklahoma, and I don't know, maybe he should be a center fielder somewhere, or is he going to be a QB? And of course, now we know exactly who I'm talking about, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's a ton of fun. I'm not super high on this quarterback class. He is my QB1. So I don't have a quarterback with a first-round grade. He is going to have a second-round grade for me. But he's a guy who his physical traits aren't impressive, but everything else about him is. He's a super good athlete. He has an absolute rocket for an arm. He's extremely accurate down the field. There's a lot to like about him, and I think some of the best things you see with him is just his ability to throw from different platforms, from different arm angles, and to stay accurate with the football. We have a clip here of where he's going to be rolling out. Oklahoma gets him out of the pocket initially to not have to deal with any pressure up the middle. They buy him some time with the scheme, and he's able to get outside, reset his base, get it to a throwing platform, and then deliver just an absolute beautiful ball 60 yards down the field to a wide open receiver. So just being able there to not only make that play effective by getting out of the pocket, but able to just reset his feet, get to a throwing platform, and deliver. It's really fun to watch him play football. We haven't even talked about his legs yet, which I think we also have a clip of just how electric of an athlete he is in the open field, as you'll see here. I'll just let the listeners watch this because there's not much narrating to do.
Oh man, yeah. Actually in the green room before, when we were going over the engineer with Lee and this, he said if you're trying to put this on the telestrator, it's like the pasta play, right? The bowl of spaghetti.
It's just that's what he does, man. He's electric with the football. You hear that with running backs and wide receivers. You're electric with the football in your hands. You don't hear a lot that with quarterbacks, and with Kyler Murray, he's electric with the ball in his hands, whether he's throwing it, whether he's running it.
Okay, let's cut to the chase on Kyler Murray because the blinders are coming off. I mean, this is not the era of Doug Flutie. You can go back to Russell Wilson. I think you can lay a lot of it at his feet. Flutie and guys like him, they laid the groundwork for the smaller quarterback. There are enough teams out there that are willing to take a risk on this guy right now, but that isn't why that's a problem. That isn't why he's a second rounder, is he?
No, I mean he's only a one-year player. You've seen him play for 1 year. The 1 year was absolutely fantastic. He won the Heisman. He threw for 4,361 yards in his 1 year as a starter at Oklahoma. He threw for 42 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions. He had a 199.2 QB rating at Oklahoma. So just the things you see in that 1 year make you go top 10 pick without looking at the size, without looking at the measurables, without looking at the commitments and decommitments and football he's signed up for. You go top 10 pick. And it's not necessarily baggage. He doesn't have off the field baggage, but even started going back to his first year coming out of high school, he committed to A&M. He left A&M. He apparently had committed to another school coming out of high school, then re-pulled his commitment and then committed back to A&M, and then he transferred to Oklahoma. So there's a lot of ins and outs with Kyler Murray. But the one thing I'm in for is his 2018 Heisman year, and there's so much to like about the tape. And I think he's a guy that he's going to go to the combine. He's probably going to test undersized, but he's a great athlete. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's extremely accurate. You got to love those three things.
You got to love the tape, man. And then, I got to ask you, is Josh Daniels from, the New England Patriots offensive coordinator, has it been a mentor for this guy? Because the ability to change your mind after commitment like that, I mean, people will understand it, fans will understand it, but teams don't like it, do they?
And it's funny you say that because I'm looking at that 32nd overall pick as a landing spot for him if he makes it that far.
Mm-hmm.
Is it here to Tom Brady? That's a spot that I keep going back to. I don't think he makes it that far. I think, Washington, it's going to be tough for him to get past Washington, some of those teams in the middle part of the draft that need quarterbacks. But if he does, I could see Bill Belichick really, really liking this guy.
And Bill Belichick can trade up if he wants to. If he wants to get him, he can get him, can he?
That's true. Yes, of course.
All right. Well, off the Kyler Murray train, and we're going to jump again pretty far up the list, cut it in half, down to number 16 on your list. And we're going to look at a defensive lineman out of Mississippi State, Jeffrey Simmons. This is an exciting guy because this guy has it all. And then he had the ACL tear in training. That is tragic for him, man.
But I think it's important to mention that I had him top 10. He tore his ACL and he only fell to 16. That's mainly due because of the lack of top-end talent in this draft. You have a really good top 3 or 4 guys, but then it starts to fall off. And he was right there in those 3 or 4 guys. So even with the ACL tear, even with him coming in to his freshman campaign in the NFL, likely redshirting, probably not going to play at all, he's still a top 20 player on my board. He's a very, very good player. I didn't see the eliteness that a lot of people saw in him just because he isn't an elite pass rusher by any means.
Right.
But the things he does is just disrupting the pocket, playing the run. You got to love it. He only has 7 career sacks. Only 2 of those sacks came in 2018. But he's just so disruptive. He gets in the backfield. He has 33 career tackles for loss. He has 163 total tackles. He's a force against the run. He is able to penetrate the pocket and disrupt the pocket, get in the quarterback's face. There's a lot of things like you'll see him work here laterally down the line of scrimmage to make the tackle for loss against Josh Jacobs, who's the best running back in this draft. And those are the things you love to see, just his ability to move for such a big guy. He's 6'4", 310 pounds, and you just love to see a guy be able to work down the line of scrimmage, stay active with his hands, stay explosive with his lower half, keep his balance, work down the line of scrimmage, and then make a tackle for loss. And that play right there against Alabama was a perfect example.
I see a guy like this. What I notice is an injury like this right at the end of the season. There's one team that jumps out of my mind that takes a chance like this all the time. And not the team, the man, Jerry Jones. Is Jerry Jones going to zero in on this guy and try to make a move? And will he last to the second round?
No, I think he goes – if he doesn't go in the first round, he's going in the top 35, 40 picks. Again, I just mentioned New England with Kyler Murray. But New England and the Rams sitting there back at 31 and 32 make a ton of sense. Ndamukong Suh's a free agent, and he's kind of a Ndamukong Suh light player, a guy who plays the run, disrupts the pocket. So I could see the Rams, if they don't fall in love with the player there at 31, think long and hard about taking Jeffrey Simmons, seeing that their window for the Super Bowl is not necessarily great. They don't have a 6, 7, 8 year window, but I can see where they can see themselves as having a 4 to 5 year window for the Super Bowl, the playoffs, and take a risk on a guy like this for a high reward opportunity.
Well, Jerry Jones did it, a few years ago with Jalen Smith, and at this point, it's definitely paying off, a lot of people would say. And it didn't pay off bad with, Sean Lee and guys like that. So if the talent's there, hey, I guess you have to pull that trigger. But let's go ahead and move on up, and let's look at the last guy on your list and jump all the way to number 2, not number 1. You're not going to give that up yet. And it's a linebacker, okay, number 41 for the Kentucky team, Josh Allen. Talk to us about some Josh Allen, because I love this guy.
Yeah, we say linebacker, defensive end, that edge is what we call him nowadays, and that's a new term that everyone's using is edge. Guy who can play both. He can play outside linebacker, he can play defensive end. You just got to love everything that comes with Josh Allen. He's a 6'6", 255-pound guy. He moves extremely well, and that's currently why I have him rated over Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa's brother, who a lot of people have as the best player in this draft. Bosa's going to be the number 3 player for me. We'll get to my number 1 player probably in a later podcast. But Josh Allen's a freak athlete. He shows it on tape. He's a guy that can bend. He explodes off the ball extremely well. We have a clip that I wanted to show of him just firing off the ball, absolutely whooping the offensive tackle. And there's just no catching up to a guy like this who comes off the line with this much explosion and this much speed. And then, like I said, when he's able to just play with the amount of power and strength that he does as well, those are the things you love. He's super long, but he also plays with that great power. We see here he wins the edge. He starts to bend. He starts to flatten out. And the offensive tackle is just pushing him in the back the entire way. But there's no off-balance movements from Josh Allen because he's such a good athlete. He's such a powerful athlete. He's able to maintain track, maintain balance, flatten out his rush, get to the quarterback, and bring him down for the sack.
Yeah, the way that he absorbed the pop from that huge man who had a good angle on him and was, okay, we're not going to get into whether that was a clip or not, or, whatever, but he was giving him power shots, and he was able to adjust his body on the fly and absorb it. And to me, that was tremendously impressive. And it needs to be, because you've actually got me more excited about this player than a lot of guys, because on the list out there, he's a top 15, top 10 guy. You've got him at number 2, right?
Yeah, and again, the reasons for that is because there's 2 things that don't lie to me in these edge rushers. It's production, consistent production. He has 31 and a half sacks in pretty much 3 years at Kentucky. So the production's there, and then the athletic ability that we see on tape, his explosion, his burst, the amount of power he plays with, those things don't lie. So when I see that and then it matches with the production, consistent production throughout his years at Kentucky, it just screams, a top 5 player in this draft. And I just love his length. I love his size. He doesn't have many flaws in his game. He can be a little bit better with being consistent in the run game, but he is a good run defender. I think we have a clip of him defending the run, working laterally down the line of scrimmage, staying square to the running back and filling the hole well. For a 250-pound guy, you don't expect him to consistently make plays like this, but you see here him fighting off the guard, using his length, throwing him to the ground, and then making a play at the line of scrimmage. That's something you love to see from a guy who's not necessarily a 285-pound, base defensive end.
Yeah, again, like you say, man, he shows that power balance combo. He uses his offhand to keep the other guy at bay, keeping his shoulders and hips square, and manages to hit the guy with power and uses those big soft hands to pull him in and stop him right there. And this is a game of inches, right?
Of course, just staying in your lane, not giving up your containment in the holes on the edge. He does a great job of that. And I'll say, if he goes to the combine and he lays an egg and it's not as impressive as I expect it to be, then he's likely going to move down a little bit. Even though I see the athletic ability, I just see him as a far superior athlete than Nick Bosa right now. But if the combine changes that, then it's likely a situation where we're going to see those guys flip. And then I'm going to start, diving into the tape and really seeing who's that second best player in the draft. Is it Nick Bosa? Is it Josh Allen? But for now, it is Josh Allen.
Okay, a question I haven't hit you with before about this guy, so just off the wall here, sidebar. Is this guy going to spark out at the combine? And you know what I mean with the spark score, right?
Yeah, I mean, I expect him to. I think everything you're going to see from him is just going to be positive. He's a very smart guy. He's a very, like I said, long guy. So everything that I expect him to do, from broad jump to vertical jump to testing to meetings to 40 to 3-cone, I expect it to be at the top of the list. You know, we always see those graphs of the spider webs of these guys as, you know, mock draftable web charts. I expect his to be completely full. I see it on tape. I have no evidence to back it up. So if I see it on tape, I expect it at the combine. There's obviously situations where guys go to combines and they don't have as good testing numbers as you expect.
They play faster than their skills.
Exactly.
Some guys do that. It's amazing.
You don't kill them for that because it shows up on the field where it matters, but you have to take into account, and that's what I'm saying. So if he goes to the combine and doesn't do what I'm expecting him to do, he's just going to fall back one spot. Nick Bosa is going to jump up one spot. It's not a big deal, but it's frustrating to see guys who, Calvin Ridley, for example, top 10 player for most people. He went to the combine last year, didn't have a good combine, and people dropped him to the 3rd round. Well, he went into the NFL and, you know, led the league in touchdowns for rookies, and people were scratching their heads wondering why, and it's because he showed it on tape. He might not have ran fast at the combine, but on tape he was explosive. He was athletic. So it's trying to get people to understand that if the tape shows it, it's there. They might not do that as well with cameras on them and underwear, but if they can get on the field when the lights turn on, then that's all that matters, and that's when you gotta trust your evaluation, trust the tape, and go with the eval.
Playing speed is the hardest thing to throw a clock on, my friend. The hardest thing in the world, because you see the game differently. That's one of the reasons you play it faster. And those guys are just that much better, not because of their raw physical abilities so much as the combination of their instincts, their experience with their physical ability, and it makes them play faster than a guy that can run faster than them, etc.
No, of course. You know, like you said, playing speed's the hardest thing to put a clock on, and for some reason it's the hardest thing for guys to evaluate and just understand what they're seeing on the tape. So
that's why these great instinct guys can stay so active in the league for so long and not be the fastest guys on the field, but they're always in position. So, you know, it's like that. They play it that way. Right. Yep. Well, hey, as we sign off here, why don't you tell people about how they can find you in social media and what we're going to be doing for the NFL draft as we wrap up next week?
Of course, you can find me on Twitter at ConnorNFLDraft. That's where I do a lot of my draft stuff. And it's dialed back a little bit now that I'm into just straight film study and player grading. So it takes a lot of my time. I'm not able to communicate as much on Twitter, but it's going to be coming back. So if you got questions, make sure you hit me up on there. Follow me on Twitter. Follow all the other great writers at Sports Talk Line on Twitter as well. Follow Sports Talk Line. And then obviously we're going to be pumping out scouting reports, player profiles, mock drafts, big boards, positional rankings. We got a lot coming up on the site, and then as well as the NFL Draft Talk podcast, where we get these guys on to talk to them, to give us their stories, their background, their success at college, even pre-college. So they're a lot of fun. If you haven't listened to those, make sure you follow the NFL Draft Talk podcast on iTunes, Apple Music, wherever you need to listen to it. Make sure you're following that as well.
All right. Well, Connor, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on your show. Yeah, and that's actually correct. And so thank you for being here. And we appreciate everyone out there taking time out of your day. Before you go, hey, man, give us a retweet, a follow, a like, a submit, a notify, all those things you do on your particular platform. And hey, until next time, listen like you play with intensity.